Listen carefully. Your happiness is not for public display. Your healing is not for curious eyes. Your blessings are not a performance. Every time you expose what Allah gave you to people who have not purified their hearts, you make sacred things visible to souls that may not know how to look without envy. Not everyone who watches you is happy for you. Not everyone who asks for updates is asking because they care. Some people do not need access to your joy, they need distance from it, because your peace reminds them of what they do not have. Your growth reminds them of where they refuse to grow. Your healing reminds them that Allah carried you to a place they thought you would never reach. So stop thinking that every part of your life needs witnesses. Some blessings grow best in silence. Some victories stay safest in sujood before they ever reach the lips of people. Some doors Allah opens for you are not meant to be photographed, announced, explained, or defended. They are meant to be protected. And the reason this matters is deeper than privacy. It is spiritual, because the moment Allah begins to lift you, He also begins to show you. He shows you who can celebrate you sincerely and who only tolerated you when you were weaker. He shows you who smiled because they loved you and who smiled because they still thought they had access to you. When He shows you who truly wanted your rise and who secretly felt safe only when you stayed beneath them. That is why some people changed the moment you changed. They did not lose their minds because you hurt them. They lost their minds because you left their reach and still flourished. They lost their peace because the version of you they depended on no longer exists. They were comfortable when you doubted yourself. They were comfortable when you needed constant reassurance. They were comfortable when you asked for their approval before making every move. They were comfortable when they could influence your emotions, shape your decisions, and keep you small enough to remain familiar. But the moment Allah gave you sight, you started seeing through the performance. You saw through fake concern. You saw through sweet words hiding bitter hearts. You saw through advice that was never meant to elevate you, only to slow you down. You saw through the people who only loved the version of you that was easier to manage. And once Allah lets you see clearly, you cannot go back to blind trust. That is not bitterness, that is mercy. Allah says, and whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. This is not just a verse for emergencies, it is a way of seeing the entire world. It means that once Allah becomes enough for you, many people lose the power they once had over you. Their approval becomes lighter, their absence becomes survivable, their hidden feelings become less dangerous. Their silence stops starving you, their distance stops frightening you, because the one who stands with Allah is no longer standing on fragile ground. This is not merely a story about walking away from the wrong people. This is a story about surviving the fire they hoped would consume you and coming out brighter than before. This is about the believer Allah protects by exposing what was hidden, removing what was harmful, and strengthening what no one thought could stand on its own. There are 7 truths in this journey that you must understand. The first is this: you were chosen to see what they could not. When Allah decides to protect a servant, He does not always begin by changing the world around them. Sometimes He begins by changing the eyes with which they see it. Suddenly, you start noticing what never used to stand out. The tone in someone's voice says more than their words. A smile looks polished but feels empty. A compliment carries something sharp beneath it. Advice that once sounded caring now reveals itself as discouragement disguised as wisdom. You begin to realize that not every person around you was standing beside you with a clean heart. And that realization can be painful, because most of us do not expect danger from the people who know our names, our homes, our habits, our wounds, and our dreams. We expect harm from enemies we can identify, not from those who sit close enough to hug us. But one of the hardest lessons in life is that envy rarely introduces itself honestly. It often comes wrapped in familiarity. It hides in fake support, hesitant congratulations, uncomfortable silence when you succeed, and sudden presence when you fail. You begin to remember things differently. That friend who always changed the subject when you spoke about your goals. That relative who only called when something in your life was going wrong. That person who gave you praise publicly but planted doubt privately. That one who never celebrated your wins with the same energy they discussed your losses. At one time, you may have brushed these things off, but now the pattern becomes clear. And that clarity is not always paranoia, sometimes it is protection. Because Allah hears what was said behind your back. He knows what hearts conceal. He sees the intentions no smile can hide and no performance can erase. You did not see everything, but He did. And out of mercy, He begins to sharpen your heart. He gives you discernment. He teaches you to pay attention. He lets discomfort rise in your chest when something is not clean, not because He wants to fill you with suspicion, but because He wants to stop you from handing your peace to people who cannot be trusted with it. This is one of the quiet ways Allah saves a person, not always by dramatic rescue, but by awakening them before the trap fully closes. And once that awakening begins, your old self starts disappearing. The version of you that trusted too quickly, explained too much, and ignored too many signs slowly dies. That hurts because innocence is comfortable. Blind trust feels easier. But truth, even when painful, is still a mercy. Better the pain of seeing clearly than the destruction of living inside a lie. So do not curse the day Allah opened your eyes. Thank Him for it. Thank Him that He let you feel the unease. Thank Him that He made the fake smile feel wrong. Thank Him that He showed you enough so you would not continue walking into rooms that looked safe but were full of poison. The second truth is this: Allah removes people to protect what He is building in you. Some of the most painful losses in life are not material, they are relational. They are the endings you never expected, the distances you did not choose, the friendships that suddenly changed temperature, the family bonds that grew heavy, the people you thought would always be there but somehow did not survive your growth. At first, these losses feel personal. You replay conversations, you question yourself, you wonder what went wrong. You feel the sting of being misunderstood, discarded, or left behind. But many times what feels like a painful ending is actually divine protection in motion. Because you did not hear every conversation. You did not witness every private reaction. You did not see the satisfaction some people felt when you struggled. You did not hear the jealousy in the dua they never made for you. You did not know how deeply some hearts were competing with you while pretending to care for you. But Allah knew. He knew the people who wanted access without responsibility. He knew the ones who gathered your weaknesses, your dreams, and your insecurities, not to protect them but to use them when needed. He knew who could smile in your face while feeling unrest every time you moved closer to your potential. And because He is Al-Hafiz, the preserver, sometimes He removes people before their hidden poison reaches your life in full. This is why some separations happen suddenly. A door shuts, a relationship cools, a certain closeness never returns. A person you once could not imagine losing becomes inaccessible. You cry over it, not realizing that Allah may be preventing a deeper wound than the one you can currently see. There are people whose presence in your life would have delayed your growth. There are people whose continued access to you would have kept you doubting yourself. There are people who only knew how to love you when you were easier to influence. There are people who could sit beside you for years and still never want you to exceed the image they had assigned to you. And when Allah decides to raise you, He does not always negotiate with those attachments. He cuts, He clears, He creates distance. Not because He enjoys your pain, but because He knows where that road leads if it remains open. If you could see what He saved you from, you would weep from gratitude instead of grief. So when He removes, do not always assume you have been rejected. Sometimes you have been rescued. Sometimes a door closes because your soul was not meant to suffocate in that room any longer. Sometimes a relationship ends because its purpose was never lifelong, it was seasonal. It taught what it needed to teach, exposed what it needed to expose, and once its purpose was complete, keeping it would have harmed you more than losing it. Do not chase what Allah pulled away. Do not beg for the return of people whose distance brought back your peace. Do not reopen doors He closed with wisdom. What He removes in mercy should not be pursued in weakness. The third truth is this: your silence is what breaks their power. When people lie about you, twist your actions, misrepresent your heart, or spread a false image of you, the natural impulse is to defend yourself. You want to explain, you want to correct the narrative. You want to expose what they did and make sure everyone knows the truth. And sometimes there is a place for clear speech. But many times the greatest strength Allah gives a believer is the discipline to remain silent when the ego is screaming to respond. Because not every accusation deserves your breath. Not every misunderstanding deserves your energy. Not every ignorant person deserves your explanation. Some people do not attack you because they are confused. They attack you because they are hungry for a reaction. They want your attention. They want your emotional collapse. They want to drag you into a battle low enough to stain your dignity and distract you from your path. They want you busy proving yourself to people who were never interested in truth to begin with. And the moment you enter that arena, you have already given them something. But silence starves them. Silence denies them access to your emotions. Silence refuses to let them dictate your direction. Silence says, my honor is not in your hands. Silence says, Allah knows, and that is weightier than your noise. Silence says, I will not spend my strength trying to convince a heart committed to misunderstanding me. This is not weakness, this is mastery. The Quran praises those who turn away from vain and ignorant speech with dignity. There is power in refusing to sit inside arguments that only multiply darkness. There is power in not becoming available to every provocation. There is power in being so anchored in Allah that not every attack can pull you out of your center. And something happens when you choose that silence. At first they think you are afraid, then they become confused, then they become restless, because your calm becomes a mirror of their chaos. Your refusal to engage becomes proof that they no longer control your inner world. They throw bait but you do not bite. They spread noise but you do not echo it. They keep talking but the only thing growing louder is their own emptiness. Silence suffocates manipulation because manipulation depends on reaction. And beyond all of that, silence is also a form of tawakkul. It is trusting that Allah can clear your name better than you can. It is believing that if He wants truth to be known, He can bring it out through routes you never planned. He can expose hypocrisy without your help. He can make the lie collapse under its own contradictions. He can reveal the slanderer through the very words they thought would bury you. So guard your tongue, guard your attention, guard your energy. You have more important things to do than answer every voice that calls you into drama. You have prayers to protect, goals to pursue, wounds to heal, knowledge to seek, and a heart to keep clean. Your peace is too expensive to hand over cheaply. The fourth truth is this: they were never comfortable with your growth, they were comfortable with your dependence. This is one of the most painful realizations a person can have. Not everyone who said they loved you for who you truly were. Some loved the role you played in their life. Some loved the control they had over you. Some loved being the one you always came back to for validation, permission, direction, or emotional rescue. As long as you remained dependent, they felt important. As long as your confidence was unstable, they felt secure. As long as you were still asking who you were, they could help shape the answer in a way that kept you near them. But then Allah started freeing you. You began making decisions without first running them through their emotions. You stopped apologizing for healthy boundaries. You no longer needed constant approval to move forward. You started listening to your conscience, your principles, and your Lord more than you listened to their moods. And suddenly, the same people who once seemed so caring became cold, distant, offended, or aggressive. Why? Because your freedom disrupted the arrangement. Control rarely admits itself honestly. It disguises itself as concern, loyalty, guidance, and closeness. But once it loses its grip, it becomes angry. It starts calling your growth arrogance. It labels your peace distance. It labels your boundaries disrespect. It labels your independence rebellion. Not because you became worse, but because you became harder to manage. That is why some people call you difficult the moment you stop being easy to control. Do not let that confuse you. People who truly love you will celebrate your growth even when it reduces their role in your life. They will thank Allah that you are stronger, wiser, and more grounded. They will not punish you for becoming healthy. They will not need you small in order to feel large. But controlling people cannot handle a person who has learned to stand with Allah. Because once Allah becomes your anchor, human manipulation begins to fail. And this is one of the reasons some relationships must break. Not every bond can survive the version of you that is no longer available for emotional captivity. Not every connection can survive your healing. Some people only knew how to interact with your confusion, your weakness, your guilt, or your neediness. When those things begin to leave, they feel like they are losing you, when in reality they are only losing access to the part of you they were using. So do not shrink just to keep others comfortable. Do not betray your growth to preserve someone else's illusion of importance. Allah did not free you from chains just to watch you lock them around yourself again. The fifth truth is this: your rise exposes the sickness hidden in insecure hearts. When Allah begins to elevate you, whether in dignity, wisdom, faith, discipline, opportunity, peace, or even simple emotional stability, you would think people who care for you would rejoice. And some will. The clean-hearted will say Alhamdulillah. The sincere will smile. The people who truly love you will feel honored to witness your growth. But not everyone has a clean heart. There are hearts that only feel secure when others remain beneath them. There are people whose sense of worth depends on comparison. As long as you were struggling, they felt safe. As long as you needed them, they felt significant. As long as your light was dim, their own insecurities stayed hidden. But the moment Allah brightens your path, their inner sickness begins to show. Suddenly, your blessings disturb them. Your peace annoys them. Your confidence unsettles them. Your healing irritates them. Your progress feels like an insult. Not because you attacked them, not because you became arrogant, but because your rise reminds them of what they refuse to confront in themselves. This is the poison of envy. It turns another person's blessing into a personal wound. Instead of saying, may Allah bless them and bless me too, the envious heart says, why them? Instead of celebrating, it competes. Instead of making dua, it resents. Instead of being inspired, it becomes bitter. And Allah speaks about people envying others for what He has given them of His bounty. So do not be surprised when your growth becomes a test for others. Your rise is never only about you. It reveals the condition of the hearts around you. Some will grow cleaner by watching you. Others will grow darker. Some will be inspired by your discipline. Others will be exposed by it. Some will say, Allah has been good to them. Others will search for a way to explain your success as luck, pride, manipulation, or unfair advantage. This is why you must never shrink your blessings to comfort insecure people. Too many people dim themselves just to avoid making others uncomfortable. Too many people slow down so the people around them do not feel left behind. Too many people apologize for the very gifts Allah placed in their lives. But Allah did not bless you so you could hide what He is building. He blessed you so you could use it with gratitude, humility, and purpose. Your responsibility is not to make everyone feel comfortable with your growth. Your responsibility is to remain humble while continuing it. And here is the hidden mercy in all of this. Sometimes Allah elevates you precisely to expose who cannot handle your rise. The blessing is not only the success, the blessing is the unveiling. Your growth shakes loose false support. It reveals who was only clapping when they felt superior. It separates those who love your soul from those who only loved your position beneath them. That is not a curse. That is purification. The sixth truth is this: separation was your training ground. When Allah removes noise from your life, it often feels like emptiness at first. Rooms get quieter. Certain messages stop arriving. Certain names stop mattering. The crowd thins out. And for a while, that silence can hurt because we are used to measuring life by activity, closeness, and constant social proof. We are used to interpreting full calendars as meaning and isolation as loss. But Allah does some of His deepest work in places where the world cannot interrupt Him. He trains the heart in private. Separation is often where Allah rebuilds a person from the inside. It is where He strips away unhealthy dependencies and teaches the believer what it means to lean on Him alone. It is where He breaks the addiction to approval. It is where He forces you to hear your own soul without the constant noise of everybody else's opinions. It is where your prayers become real because there are no longer 10 people to run to before Him. This is why separation is not always loneliness. Sometimes it is construction. Think about how people are prepared for serious missions. They are not trained in distraction. They are pulled out, disciplined, stripped of excess, and focused. In the same way, Allah sometimes removes you from certain people, environments, and routines because where He is taking you cannot be reached by the version of you that was emotionally scattered, easily influenced, and overly available to everyone. You needed room to strengthen. You needed quiet to hear. You needed distance to detox from manipulation. You needed stillness to discover who you were when no one was narrating your worth back to you. And in that training ground, something beautiful happens. Your relationship with Allah stops being decorative and becomes central. You start talking to Him differently. Your dua becomes deeper because it is no longer rushed. Your reliance becomes more sincere because there are fewer human crutches. Your discipline grows. Your discernment sharpens. You become more selective with access, with speech, with company, with energy, with time. You also learn one of the most freeing lessons in life. You can survive people leaving. You can function without constant attention. You can heal without everyone understanding your story. You can move forward without dragging old attachments into the future. You discover that what once felt like emotional starvation was actually the beginning of freedom. And once you learn how to stand with Allah in quiet seasons, the world loses one of its favorite weapons against you. Abandonment no longer destroys you the way it used to. Rejection no longer owns your identity. Distance no longer automatically means panic because you have been trained in a place where only Allah's nearness mattered. This is what makes a person dangerous to falsehood. Not loudness, not performance, stability. The kind of stability that comes from being rebuilt where human eyes were absent but divine care was near. The seventh truth is this: you were never meant to fit in. One of the most exhausting things a soul can do is keep begging for belonging in spaces Allah never designed to hold it. We live in a world obsessed with fitting in, blend in, be acceptable, be agreeable. Do not stand out too much. Do not become too serious. Do not become too principled. Do not make others uncomfortable by living with too much intention. But when Allah wants more for a servant, He starts making them restless in the very places where they used to feel normal. Conversations lose meaning. Gatherings feel heavy. Approval feels cheap. Crowded places start feeling strangely empty. Things that used to excite you now leave your heart cold. That shift can be frightening because for a while it feels like you are losing your place in the world. But what is actually happening is this: Allah is separating you from what no longer matches your soul. The reason you no longer fit is not because you failed. It is because He is lifting your standards, your awareness, and your purpose. Fitting in is easy when you are willing to betray yourself. Fitting in is easy when you silence truth to preserve popularity. Fitting in is easy when you make your soul cheap enough for any environment to host. But Allah did not create you to be cheaply hosted. He did not create you to shrink your convictions so that shallow rooms can keep you. He did not choose you for clarity only to watch you drown it in the crowd. He did not show you what is false just to see you return to it because being different felt lonely. He set you apart because some roads are too sacred to be crowded. The prophets knew this. They were the most beloved to Allah, yet they were often the least understood by their people. They stood apart not because they wanted isolation for its own sake, but because truth and falsehood cannot always live comfortably in the same place. Their path required distance from corruption, patience in loneliness, and strength when the majority could not recognize what Allah had placed in them. Your journey carries that pattern in its own measure. There will be times when you feel like nobody understands what is happening inside you. Times when people call your growth coldness. Times when they misread your boundaries as pride. Times when your refusal to keep participating in what drains your soul makes them call you difficult. Let them speak. You were not chosen to be universally understood. You were chosen to be guided. Stop trying to fit into places where your light must be dimmed in order to remain tolerated. Stop seeking invitations to rooms Allah never wrote your peace inside. Stop translating yourself for people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop asking for a seat at tables built on comparison, manipulation, vanity, and spiritual emptiness. Not fitting in is not always a problem. Sometimes it is proof. Proof that Allah is redirecting you. Proof that your soul has outgrown what once entertained it. Proof that your path is becoming narrower because it is becoming cleaner. Proof that the life written for you will not be built by the crowd. And if that means you walk with fewer people for a while, then walk with dignity. Better a smaller circle with sincerity than a crowded one full of envy. Better a quiet heart with Allah than noisy acceptance bought by compromising yourself. Better to be set apart by truth than swallowed by what everyone else calls normal. So stop looking backward. Stop replaying what they did. Stop wishing the fake smiles had been real. Stop grieving every door as though every ending was a tragedy. Stop explaining your growth to people whose comfort depended on your weakness. They did not lose their minds because you failed them. They lost their minds because you left them and still thrived. They thought their silence would starve you. They thought their gossip would define you. They thought your loneliness would break you. But Allah turned distance into discipline, pain into discernment, grief into growth, and separation into strength. You did not just survive without them. You became clearer without them. You became calmer without them. You became stronger without them. You became closer to Allah without them. That is the real story. The real story is not that people left. The real story is that Allah remained. The real story is not that they misunderstood you. The real story is that Allah knew you. The real story is not that they lost access. The real story is that Allah was protecting what they no longer deserved to touch. So walk forward now with dignity. Guard your blessing. Protect your peace. Be slower to reveal what Allah is still growing in private. Let some victories remain between you and your Lord. Let some answers remain unspoken. Let some doors close without a final speech. Let some people watch from a distance as Allah completes what they never thought would survive. You do not need the crowd when you have the Creator. You do not need their approval when you have His mercy. You do not need to defend every chapter when the author of the story is perfect in wisdom. Keep your heart clean. Keep your intentions sincere. Keep your trust in Allah stronger than your attachment to any person. And remember this with certainty. When Allah chooses to protect you, expose what harms you, remove what weakens you, and elevate you beyond what others can understand, no one can undo what He has written. Because when Allah chooses you, no one can unchoose. When Allah protects you, no hidden hatred can cancel you. When Allah opens your eyes, no fake smile can blind you again. When Allah becomes enough for you, the loss of people stops feeling like the loss of life. So let them talk, let them wonder, let them wrestle with the reality that you did not break where they expected you to break. You were never meant to stay where they could manage you. You were never meant to fit inside the small image they had of you. You were never meant to live starving for what only Allah can truly give. You were meant to rise. You were meant to be refined. You were meant to be set apart. And every separation, every unveiling, every quiet season, and every painful awakening was part of the mercy that carried you there.